We often look at the AI landscape and, we approach it tactically. We compare Gemini and ChatGPT
Right.
like they're two new smartphones. Which one has the better camera, right? Which one gives you slightly cleaner copy? But the sources we've been digging into, they tell a much, much bigger story. This is not a quick software choice. The decision you are making right now it's foundational. And a wrong move here could, well, it could quietly set your costs and honestly your ability to compete for the next 5 years.
Oh, absolutely. It's a full-blown platform war. And, most people are treating it like a chatbot beauty contest. Google and OpenAI, they aren't fighting over who writes a better poem. They're fighting for control over your entire digital workflow.
And that's really the core of what we're unpacking today. We're going deep on why these tech giants are trying to capture the entire marketing stack.
Yeah, and our mission for you is pretty simple. We want you to understand the danger of what's called platform lock-in, which is, by the way, already happening. And then we want to give you the blueprint for the orchestrator strategy. That's how you win. We'll get into Google's huge structural advantages, the fascinating pricing games behind all this, and then how you can actually combine these models into a workflow that works.
Okay, let's start there. This idea that the platform's goal is total control. And the tool they're using to get it is something the sources are calling platform lock-in.
And it's happening right now, mostly under the radar. When we say platform lock-in, we mean the technical dependencies that make switching providers too expensive as free tiers shrink.
Technical dependencies that make switching providers too expensive. Okay, that's clear. But what does that actually feel like for the listener? Is it like being stuck with an email provider you don't like?
It's so much worse than that. Think about trying to migrate off of a huge old ERP system, the kind that runs your payroll, your inventory, everything. It's so painful and expensive because every single automation, every report, every save template you've ever made is built assuming platform X is always there.
So that process of, say, saving prompts and linking things up through Zapier or NNA, that isn't just making work easier. You're actually pouring technical concrete around your own feet.
That's the perfect analogy. Every prompt structure, every data format, every little fine-tuning step is super specific to that one model. So if your team spends 6 months perfecting the ChatGPT way of talking, you can't just flip a switch to Gemini tomorrow, not even if Gemini suddenly got 50% cheaper.
And that technical debt just builds up silently. The real cost isn't just what you pay per API call. It's in retraining your entire team. Rewriting thousands of workflows becomes this massive barrier.
And that's the catastrophic mistake most organizations are making. They're treating this like choosing between Microsoft Word and Google Docs. They think, oh, we'll just move our documents later. But an AI model isn't a document. It's the intelligence that runs your business logic.
So if the pain of leaving gets too high, the platform has you. They've won. They can start changing prices, cutting back on services, and you can't really do anything about it.
That's the brutal reality of the lock-in tax, and we'll definitely get to that. But first, we really need to understand the levers being pulled to create that lock-in in the first place.
So what is the critical mistake marketers are making right now?
Treating AI tools like choosing between Microsoft Word and Google Docs.
Okay, so let's zoom out then and look at the foundation here. The structural advantages that Google is leaning on. I mean, the sources we've read argue that Google isn't even really competing on the same level as OpenAI. They're playing a much older, deeper game.
They absolutely are. And it all starts with what we call the data moat. Look, OpenAI has this incredibly impressive, massive set of training data, but it's static, right? It's a snapshot of the internet up to a certain point in time. Google has been collecting search intent data since the late 90s.
Decades of human curiosity, all captured in real time. That's a huge lead.
And it's not just history. Google processes something like 13.6 billion searches every single day. That is a live feed of what people care about, what trends are happening, how language is changing right now.
Whoa. Imagine tapping into 13.6 billion searches every day. It's like ChatGPT's knowledge is like the world's best library archives. But Gemini is tapping into the world's current pulse. That's a massive, massive difference.
Exactly. Which means Gemini isn't just good at giving you information. It's good at modeling the demand for information.
Yeah.
It understands what keywords are spiking, what questions people are starting to ask. It gives you these ecosystem native insights.
And that data advantage connects right into their second big advantage, which is distribution. OpenAI has to get you to download an app or go to their website. Google doesn't.
Nope. Google just flips a switch. Gemini is getting baked into tools you already use, Docs, Sheets, Gmail, YouTube. which has, what, 2.7 billion users? It's
Huge.
sitting right inside that $224 billion advertising ecosystem.
Yeah.
They just get to skip the whole adoption phase.
That makes it so sticky. You use Gemini to draft an email, then you use it to analyze performance and analytics. You never leave their world.
Then you have the third factor, which people don't talk about as much, custom hardware. The TPUs, tensor processing units. OpenAI, even with Microsoft's backing, is still basically renting computer power from Microsoft Azure. They're paying a markup.
And Google?
Google built their own. They designed their own chips, the TPUs,
Yeah.
specifically for AI, so they control the whole supply chain, the whole cost structure.
So it's like renting a supercar for a track day versus custom building a Formula One car just for that one track. Google controls everything. They're vertically integrated.
And that control means they don't pay that cloud markup. They can pass that saving on to you, the user, as a subsidy. And that's a move OpenAI just can't match because they're a tenant. They're renting the servers.
So how does this massive real-time data flow actually benefit Gemini users day to day?
It allows Gemini to see real-time trends and offer ecosystem-native insights that affect your strategy now. And this structural advantage is what really dictates the whole pricing battle. It's fundamentally different. Google is playing what you could call ecosystem defense. OpenAI needs standalone profit. They have to make money from the tool itself.
Right. This is where it stops being about technology and becomes pure business strategy. Google is just using their classic playbook, right? The one they used to push Chrome or Internet Explorer way back when.
Precisely. For Google, the real goal isn't selling Gemini subscriptions. The real goal is protecting that $224 billion advertising and search empire. They know that if you start doing your research and you're planning somewhere else, you might eventually leave Google Search and Google Ads.
So they can afford to run Gemini at cost, or even at a loss, probably forever. The AI is just a tool to reduce friction and keep you inside their walled garden.
OpenAI has a totally different financial reality. They have to cover these staggering R&D costs for things like GPT-5, and they have to pay their Microsoft Azure bill. Those are huge real costs.
So OpenAI's price has to reflect their actual cost, plus a margin. Meanwhile, Google's price reflects a strategic subsidy. That's a huge imbalance from day one.
It is. And over time, you could expect Google to offer way more compute, more features for less money, because they're paying for it with their ad money. The AI itself doesn't need to be profitable. The ecosystem needs to be profitable.
That puts OpenAI in a really tough spot. It means they have to constantly be innovating just to justify their higher price. If they slow down, why would anyone pay a premium when the subsidized tool is good enough and already built into everything?
And constant innovation is incredibly expensive. Building GPT-5 costs billions. So that drives their price up, which makes the gap with Google even wider, which forces them to innovate even more. It's a great cycle for Google and a really stressful one for OpenAI.
But hold on, if Google is just structurally cheaper, why would a marketing team still need to pay more for OpenAI? Why not just use the subsidized one?
Because the cheaper tool might not give you the quality you need for your most critical use cases, especially in areas that need real nuance, creativity, or, persuasive power.
And that question brings us right to the winning strategy, which is you have to accept that no single tool is ever going to be the best at everything. You have to stop being a user of one platform and start becoming an orchestrator of many.
Forcing one AI, I don't care how powerful it is, to do everything from deep data analysis to writing emotional sales copy. It's like using a hammer for brain surgery. You just end up with mediocrity everywhere. You have to use the biological advantage of each model.
Okay, let's define those. Based on the source material, what are those biological advantages?
Well, Gemini is the detective. Because it has that live feed of human curiosity, the 13 billion searches, and it's native to Google Analytics, it is just supreme at research, at SEO strategy, at understanding performance data. It can basically see the matrix of the Google algorithm better than any human.
And ChatGPT is still the persuader, the storyteller.
Yeah, ChatGPT still has a real edge where you need high emotional nuance and really consistent brand voice. We use it for high-stakes persuasive copy, like email campaigns, landing page hooks, or any client communication that has to sound authentically human.
So the smart workflow isn't which one do we pick, but when do we use which one?
Yeah.
Can we walk through like a practical 3-phase workflow?
Absolutely. Okay, phase one is research and strategy. You start with Gemini, you feed it your Google Ads data, you ask it to analyze trending keywords and map out where the customer intent gaps are. Gemini gives you the raw strategic insight. Then phase two is creative execution. You take those insights from Gemini and you feed that raw data into ChatGPT. You tell ChatGPT, based on our brand persona, write 4 emotionally resonant ad copy variations for these intent gaps. Now you're getting persuasive on-brand content.
So you're turning the facts into a compelling message.
And phase 3 is optimization. You take the performance data from those ads, what worked and what didn't, and you feed it back to Gemini. Because it's native to analytics, it can refine the strategy based on real results, not just guesses, and that informs the next creative cycle.
That makes the whole process modular. You're not forcing one tool into a job it's just not built for.
Exactly. You're leveraging their inherent strengths. The whole process gets faster, cheaper, and the quality is higher.
Okay, this orchestration idea feels really important right now, especially with the platforms trying to lure everyone into their gardens. When we come back, we have to talk about the ticking clock here and the threat of this lock-in tax, because those generous free tiers are not going to last forever. Welcome back to the deep dive. So we've established that orchestration is the winning play here, but that strategy, it kind of has an expiration date, because the deals the platforms are offering right now, they won't last. We're on a ticking clock.
The next 12 months, this is the crucial window, the window to build portable systems. Right now, it's a land grab. They're offering low prices, generous free tiers, anything to get you hooked. They want to maximize that lock-in before they change the game.
And the sources are calling that change the lock-in tax. What does that actually look like when it hits us in a year or so?
It's insidious. First, the free tiers will shrink, or they'll just vanish. Then the pricing starts to normalize, which is just a nice way of saying it goes up a lot. And once they know you can't easily switch, that's when the feature gates appear. Suddenly, things you need, like better security or API access, are behind these expensive enterprise contracts.
And because you spent the last year building everything into their system, you have to pay. You're trapped. You're paying the tax.
It's the ultimate price for pouring that technical concrete. And look, even for those of us who watch this stuff all day, I still wrestle with prompt drift myself when I try to move a complex workflow from one model to another. It takes real conscious effort to stay portable.
That's a vulnerable admission, and I think it highlights this isn't just a tech problem, it's an organizational discipline problem. So how do you build that portability now, before that tax really hits?
You have to map your dependencies. The smart teams right now are asking those uncomfortable questions. Questions like, what breaks if this tool disappears tomorrow? Or if the price goes up 400%? You have to know where you're vulnerable.
And what's the tactical solution? How do you stop that from breaking everything?
You build abstraction layers. Basically, you use tools, even if it's just a really good internal wiki, to standardize how you talk to the AI.
Yeah.
So instead of coding a prompt directly into Zapier, you route all your requests through a central manager. And that makes the provider, Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, whoever, it makes them a plug-and-play component. If one of them raises their prices or the quality dips, you just swap the provider that abstraction layer. You don't have to rewrite 1,000 workflows.
So it's about future-proofing the people, too. Training your teams on the core principles of prompt engineering, not just on how to use today's hot tool.
Exactly. The principles of clear communication, those are durable. The individual tools are temporary. Flexibility has to be baked in from day one.
So what is the most uncomfortable question teams must ask themselves right now about their AI setup?
What breaks if the price increases or if the tool disappears tomorrow?
So to wrap up our deep dive today, I think the core lesson is pretty clear. The winning move in this whole platform war isn't about picking the winner. It's about building organizational flexibility. It's about mastering orchestration. The wrong question to be asking is, which AI is better? The right question, the much more important question is, how do I build a strategy that wins no matter which platform ends up on top? Because the platforms will change, but your marketing goals have to stay constant.
The marketers who figure out this modular orchestrator mindset in the next year, they're going to have a massive competitive advantage. And the ones who just stick to a single solution will find themselves locked in, paying more and more for less and less. So here's your final thought to chew on. Take your single most important marketing prompt, the one you rely on most. Run it through Gemini, run it through ChatGPT, and run it through a third one like Claude, and then compare the results objectively side by side. I think only then will you really see the hidden cost of sticking to a single model strategy.
Think about the cost of that comparison, and then think about the cost of being trapped.